this has been a disappointment for Wrexham as Broadhead wins a throw-in.
Yeah, we spoke about the substitutions earlier in the first half, about how much strength and depth we've had. They've just not been able to get into the game.
It is Broadhead, but it's crossed straight at Beadle. And time is surely up now. Wrexham had the results go beautifully for us yesterday, but today has not gone well for us. There is the final whistle as Chris Davis, the Birmingham manager, blows a kiss to the crowd. They hadn't won for a while. They'd lost their last 3, but they're most certainly deserving winners here as Wrexham look to tighten up after conceding 5 on Tuesday. But that sturdy box midfield wasn't able to offer support to Kiefer Moore and a very well organised Birmingham side who kept things tight and were difficult to play against, difficult to create against. Well, completely stopped us from creating. I haven't noted any chances Wrexham had down in my notes. Not a game of many opportunities, but yeah, Birmingham always looked comfortable, always looked in control with Priska's energy up front and the smart in the line behind him of Osman Bethente and Stansfield really dictating terms. And Wrexham just couldn't lay a glove on Birmingham. The 2 goals we conceded were really disappointing, especially in the context of wanting to get back to basics after letting in 5 on Tuesday. The first one,
2 back post goals, a header from Gente, and you just need to be a bit closer, and you've got to stop the cross. You've just got to want to stop the cross, and then a set piece. They've not carved us open at all today. You know, Arthur's made 1 save from a mistake for me from Doyle not dealing with it earlier, but they've just come out on top. They were the better team for me. They looked more threatening than we did, but without opening us up. But the key moments they took, and we didn't have any key moments really.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I really just don't think Wrexham, I don't think you have any argument to say they really deserved anything really from that match. I agree with Andy. At no real points did Birmingham, like Andy says, carve us open or anything like that, but I think they just had far more quality on that ball, both going forward and defensively in those moments. Wrexham, like you say, Mark, 0 shots on target again, away from home. We know these Wrexham away performances, we're not going to dominate against these teams. We know we like to sit back and hurt them on counter-attacks. But again, we haven't really been able to do that again today, and it's just so disappointing on the back of what was obviously a disappointing, frustrating night on Tuesday. But then again, when results go our way yesterday, it just feels like a bit of a story of the season. We haven't been able to capitalise in moments like that, and you just get this feeling it's going to be maybe one of those regrettable sort of feelings when we get to the end of the season. We see what might have been. Listen, we're still only 4 points off Hull. There's 4 games to go. That is far and enough time to get back into those playoff positions. Of course it is. We know this league now, we're 42 games in. We know how quickly it can change. So I have no doubts about that. But again, I say it, I feel like this was a huge, huge opportunity for this Wrexham side to put immense pressure on Hull and get closer into those playoffs. And it just feels, again, that performance just wasn't there.
Yeah, Bethente scored the first in the 48th minute after a first half which Wrexham started slowly, but by the break you were feeling okay about it. We weren't creating, but neither were Birmingham, and we'd come into it a lot more. But we started the second half very slowly. Bethente was opportunistic in getting onto a cross which was not aimed at him, it was aimed for Priska. But he was sharp at the far post to get his head to it and put it inside the post, with Okonkwo just not quite able to get enough on it to claw it out as it crossed the line. And we couldn't really respond to that, and then conceded in the 72nd minute a set piece, a corner, swept in. Okonkwo penned in, stretched and couldn't reach it, and Clara marked by Clewis, the two of them pulling away at each other's shirts. And Clara was stronger and was able to get ahead of his man and just knock into the open goal. 2 really poorly conceded goals, but yeah, more concerning for Wrexham was that we really didn't create anything. And like I said, Phil Barkson said we looked a bit too open against Southampton with Broadhead and Windass playing in support of the striker. We've brought in a more solid box midfield with Rathbone and O'Brien ahead of the double pivot, and we've sort of gone the other way a little bit, and that's just something you'll have to have a little look at before next Saturday against Stoke.
just seems like we were a little bit tense when we were playing, not that free-flowing, just go and no fear sort of attitude that we've had previously. We look like they daren't make a pass, they daren't lose the ball. It's a hard work to go and make a closing down and a run. And that just is belief, and I think, and confidence maybe. When you get hit for 5, it's really difficult to come back. But like Phil said, it can't define your season. You've got to find a way of gritting it out. Yes, we went more defensive. Yes, they had less chances. But you've just got to go and be free and have a go. Have a go. Feel like, because I think most of the players will look in the mirror tonight and go, really have a go and give it I've given it everything. Physically, probably the numbers are right up there. But having an actual go and going, we gave it everything, we just couldn't, we came up against a better team. I don't think Birmingham was particularly better. They probably deserved to win the game today, but they were not miles better like Southampton were, and you just need moments in games, and we had no moments today.
Yeah, I'd say they imposed themselves, didn't they, really, in the way that we didn't. I just forgot I saw on the screen that there was a huge save right at the end of the half by Okonkwo, and Bethente outpaced Doyle and was one-on-one. It was a heck of an important save, that. But, yeah, I mean, for me, I just thought Birmingham looked very compact when they didn't have the ball, and that was enough to force us to pass the ball around in front of them. Credit to them for the way they approached it and their energy, because they kept putting pressure on the ball to the very end. But they're not in good form, and it's frustrating really that you've come here thinking, well, this is a winnable game, to start off a run of 3 winnable games, but losing quite tamely like that means we really are heavily reliant now on teams slipping up above us.
Yeah, and again, I think that's something we've said a number of times in the last few weeks. Obviously not on Tuesday night against Southampton, but I think back to West Brom, you go into a team low down in the table. Yes, they should be much higher. They've got some very good quality players, but again, it was goals that you should do much better with. I'd even go to Watford. I know, again, Watford were very good that night, but you go into a team who weren't particularly in good form. You're thinking, this Wrexham side, surely, like Andy says, I just think they haven't got too much to lose. How many people actually thought they would be pushing for playoffs at this point in the season? And it just feels again like, that foot hasn't been put to the pedal today, which does baffle the mind a little bit when you look at the opportunity there, especially on the back of those results yesterday. I'll come back to them. And the frustrating part is obviously when they'll look back at those goals and they are just so, that's not like a Wrexham side at all that we've seen under Phil Parkinson. On the back of Christmas, one of the best things we were saying about this Wrexham side is how solid they looked at the back. That looked like something that didn't need any critiquing or whatsoever. So how that sort of flipped on its head, I'm not so sure. But like you touched on as well, Mark, obviously the worry is, again, 0 shots on target today, even going down to 2-0, and you sort of think, right, surely they go for it now and really threaten Birmingham and put them under some sustained attacks, and that just didn't really happen at all.
Yeah, just watching the highlights back there, we haven't had a highlight. There's not one opportunity or moment today where you thought, if that goes in, it lifts us and we get back in it, because yes, Birmingham have been excellent. The 2 centre halves I thought were excellent today. They covered each other, they won first balls, they defended their box really well. But you've got to find a moment at some point, a shot or whatever it is, that tests their keeper, and we just haven't done that. And you're not going to win a game if you don't do that.
There's only real moments of disruption, and I'm clutching at straws massively, was that when Smith came on, his sideways movements and trying to run in behind at least started dragging their defensive unit around a bit. But there's heavy italics in that sentence. I'm just saying there was the birth of something possibly happening there, but it was, we didn't ask questions of them, and there we are. So we got at least we've got a week to work on it now in the training ground. But ironically, when we went into the international break, we looked tired and we were winning every other game and thinking, thank goodness for a little break. But since then, 1 point out of 9, we actually seem to have lost a bit of momentum somehow. Just wonder, with Birmingham rotating their team last Monday and bringing a lot of players who haven't had much of a look in since arriving in January, if Phil Parkinson might think time to freshen things up, a week to work on, say, Keeler Dunn, to see what he can bring maybe to in a longer capacity. But hey, let's not panic. We're still 4 points off the playoffs to go into the Premier League. to go into the Premier League, for goodness sake. This is a wonderful position for our club to be in. Not a happy day here at Birmingham, but it's not over yet, and we keep going and go again against Stoke City. With a final score of Birmingham City 2, Wrexham 0, we've been Mark Griffiths, Andy Morrell and Mia Roberts from Wrexham AFC.